James Morrison woke up at 5 in the morning and put on his janitor uniform. He was not a real janitor. He was the CEO of Morrison Industries, one of the biggest companies in London. His grandfather had built the company from nothing, and now James owned it. He was 32 years old and had been running the company for 5 years. But lately, he had noticed something wrong. Money was disappearing from the company accounts. Projects were failing. Employees were complaining about management. His board members told him everything was fine, but James did not believe them. He decided to go undercover as a janitor to find out what was really happening in his own company. He told only his assistant, Peter, about his plan. Peter thought it was dangerous and stupid, but James insisted. He wanted to see how his employees really behaved when they thought no one important was watching. He wanted to know who was stealing from him and who was treating the workers badly. So he created a fake identity. His name would be Jim Anderson, a 50-year-old janitor who needed the job to pay his bills. James put on old glasses that made him look older. He wore a gray wig and added some makeup to create wrinkles on his face. He looked at himself in the mirror and smiled. No one would recognize him. He had been doing this for 2 weeks now, working the night shift as a janitor. He cleaned toilets, mopped floors, and emptied trash bins. It was hard work, much harder than sitting in his CEO office. His back hurt and his hands were rough from the cleaning chemicals. But he was learning things that shocked him. He discovered that the head of HR, Mr. Thomas Green, was taking bribes from job applicants. He found out that the finance director, Mrs. Patricia Wells, was approving fake invoices and pocketing the money. He saw how the managers treated the cleaning staff and the security guards like they were worthless. They shouted at them, insulted them, and sometimes did not pay them overtime. James wrote down everything he saw in a small notebook that he kept hidden in his janitor cart. But there was one person who stood out to him. Her name was Emma Clark. She was 28 years old and worked as a project manager in the marketing department. James had seen her file before. She had joined the company 3 years ago and had excellent performance reviews. But what caught his attention was not her work record. It was how she treated people. Every time James was cleaning near her office, he noticed that she always said good morning to him. She smiled at him. She asked him if he needed help carrying heavy trash bags. She was the only manager in the entire building who treated him like a human being. It was a Tuesday morning when everything changed. James was mopping the floor in the main hallway on the 5th floor. This was where all the senior managers had their offices. He was wearing his janitor uniform and his fake gray wig. His mop bucket had dirty water in it, and he was moving slowly, listening to the conversations around him. That was when he heard shouting coming from the conference room. He moved closer, pretending to clean the area near the door. Inside the conference room, Mr. Thomas Green was yelling at someone. James peeked through the small window in the door and saw Emma Clark standing there. Her face was red, but she was not crying. She looked angry. Mr. Green was pointing his finger at her face and shouting that she was useless and stupid. He said she had ruined an important client presentation. He called her an idiot and told her she should be grateful she even had a job. Emma stood there and took the insults without saying anything back. James felt his blood boil. He wanted to burst into that room and fire Mr. Green right then and there. But he could not blow his cover yet. He needed more evidence. He needed to find out who else was involved in the corruption. So he stayed outside and kept listening. Mr. Green finally stopped shouting and told Emma to get out of his office. Emma walked out of the conference room with her head held high. She did not look defeated. She looked furious. James quickly pretended to mop the floor as she walked past him. Emma stopped and looked at him. Her eyes were wet, but no tears fell. She took a deep breath and said, "Good morning, Jim. How are you today?" James was surprised. She had just been humiliated and insulted, but she still had the kindness to greet him. He mumbled that he was fine and asked if she was okay. Emma smiled sadly and said, "I will be. Some people in this company have forgotten that we are all human beings, but I will not forget. Thank you for asking." She walked away toward her office, and James watched her go. He made a decision right then. He would protect Emma Clark. She was exactly the kind of person his company needed. She had integrity and compassion. Those were rare qualities in the business world. He finished mopping the floor and pushed his cart toward the elevator. He had a lot of work to do tonight. He needed to gather more evidence against Mr. Green and the others. But he also needed to find out why Mr. Green had attacked Emma so viciously. There had to be a reason behind it. That evening, James stayed late at the office. Most employees had gone home by 7. Only the security guards and a few workaholics remained. James put on his janitor uniform and started his shift. He went straight to Mr. Green's office on the 6th floor. The door was locked, but James had a master key. Being the CEO had some advantages, even when you were pretending to be a janitor. He opened the door quietly and went inside. Mr. Green's office was large and expensive. There were leather chairs, a mahogany desk, and paintings on the walls. James went straight to the desk and opened the drawers. He found what he was looking for in the 3rd drawer. There was a folder marked Confidential. Inside were copies of fake invoices, bank statements showing transfers to Mr. Green's personal account, and emails between Mr. Green and Mrs. Wells discussing how to split the stolen money. But there was something else in the folder that made James pause. There were several documents about Emma Clark. There were copies of her project reports, her performance reviews, and her emails. Someone had been monitoring her closely. James read through the documents and realized what was happening. Emma had discovered something. She had found discrepancies in the budget for a major marketing campaign. She had reported it to Mr. Green, thinking he would investigate. But Mr. Green was the one stealing the money. So instead of investigating, he had been trying to discredit Emma and get her fired. James took photos of all the documents with his phone. He put everything back exactly as he had found it and locked the office door behind him. He pushed his janitor cart down the hallway, thinking about what to do next. He could not reveal himself yet. He needed to catch them in the act. He needed undeniable proof that would hold up in court. As he was thinking, he heard voices coming from the break room. He moved closer and recognized the voices. It was Mr. Green and Mrs. Wells. They were talking about Emma. Mr. Green was saying that Emma was becoming a problem. She was too smart and too honest. She kept asking questions about the budget. Mrs. Wells suggested they should fire her immediately, but Mr. Green said that would look suspicious. Instead, they should set her up to fail. They would give her an impossible project with no resources and a tight deadline. When she failed, they would have a legitimate reason to fire her. They both laughed at their plan. James recorded the entire conversation on his phone. Now he had everything he needed. The next morning, James came to work as Jim the janitor again. He was cleaning the lobby area when Emma arrived. She looked tired. There were dark circles under her eyes. She was carrying a large box of files and her laptop bag. She smiled at James and said good morning as usual. James asked her if she needed help carrying the box. Emma looked surprised but grateful. She said yes and thanked him. James carried the box to her office on the 5th floor. Emma unlocked her office door and told him to put the box on her desk. James noticed that her office was small and plain compared to the other managers' offices. There were no expensive decorations, just a few family photos and a small plant on the windowsill. Emma offered him a bottle of water from her mini-fridge. James accepted it and thanked her. She told him he could sit down and rest for a minute. James sat in the chair across from her desk. Emma sat down and sighed deeply. She looked at him and said, "Jim, can I ask you something?" James nodded. Emma continued, "Do you think I am a bad employee? Do you think I deserve to be treated the way Mr. Green treats me?" James was taken aback by the question. He looked at her carefully and said, "No, miss. I think you are one of the best people in this building. I see how you treat everyone with respect. That is rare." Emma's eyes filled with tears. She quickly wiped them away and laughed. "Thank you, Jim. You have no idea how much I needed to hear that. Mr. Green gave me a new project yesterday. It is impossible. He wants me to organize a complete rebranding campaign for our biggest client in 2 weeks, with a budget of almost nothing. He knows I will fail. He is setting me up so he can fire me." James felt anger rising in his chest again. He wanted to tell her the truth right then. He wanted to tell her he was the CEO and that she was safe. But he could not. Not yet. Instead, he said, "Miss Emma, if I may say something. You are smart and kind. Those people who are trying to hurt you, they are doing it because they are afraid of you. They know you are better than them. Do not give up. Do your best on this project. You might surprise yourself. Emma smiled at him. You are very wise, Jim. Thank you. I will do my best. I will not let them win. James stood up and said he had to get back to work. Emma thanked him again for carrying the box and for the encouragement. As James left her office, he made another decision. He would help Emma succeed on this impossible project. He would use his resources secretly to make sure she had everything she needed. Over the next few days, James watched Emma work harder than anyone else in the building. She stayed late every night, sometimes until midnight. She skipped lunch to make phone calls to potential vendors and designers. James, still disguised as Jim the janitor, would bring her coffee and sandwiches from the cafeteria. Emma always thanked him and insisted on paying him back, but James refused. He told her it was his way of supporting someone who deserved it. During his night shifts, James used his CEO access to help Emma without her knowing. He contacted several of the company's top vendors and told them to give Emma special discounts on their services. He instructed the IT department to give her access to premium software tools that would make her work easier. He made sure she had a bigger budget than Mr. Green had authorized, and he hid the extra expenses in other department accounts where Mr. Green would not notice. Emma began to make progress on the project. She created a brilliant rebranding strategy that was creative and cost-effective. She designed new logos, marketing materials, and a social media campaign that would appeal to younger customers. James saw her presentation slides when he was cleaning her office one night. He was genuinely impressed. She had talent and vision. This project was not going to fail. It was going to be a massive success. But Mr. Green and Mrs. Wells were not happy about Emma's progress. James overheard them talking in Mr. Green's office one evening. They were panicking. They had expected Emma to fail within the first week, but instead, she was thriving. Mr. Green said they needed to sabotage her work directly. Mrs. Wells suggested they could delete her files from the company server or cancel her meetings with the client. Mr. Green agreed. They decided to act the night before Emma's big presentation. James knew he had to stop them. He could not let them destroy Emma's work. That night, he stayed hidden in a storage closet near the server room. At 11 o'clock, Mr. Green came into the building. He looked around nervously to make sure no one was watching. He went into the server room and sat down at one of the computer terminals. James watched through a crack in the storage closet door. Mr. Green logged into the system using an administrator password. He navigated to Emma's project folder and moved his cursor to the delete button. James stepped out of the storage closet and cleared his throat loudly. Mr. Green jumped in his chair and spun around. His face went pale when he saw Jim the janitor standing there. "What are you doing here?" Mr. Green shouted. "Get out! This area is restricted." James walked closer, his phone in his hand, recording everything. "I clean this building every night, sir. I have access to every room. I saw you come in here. What are you doing on that computer?" Mr. Green stood up quickly and tried to block the computer screen. "That is none of your business. You are just a janitor. Get out before I call security and have you fired." James smiled calmly. "Go ahead and call security. But I think you should know that I have been recording you and Mrs. Wells for the past 2 weeks. I have evidence of your theft, your bribery, and your plan to sabotage Miss Emma's project. I have photos of the fake invoices in your office. I have recordings of your conversations about stealing company money." Mr. Green's face turned from pale to bright red. "You are lying! Give me that phone!" He lunged at James, trying to grab the phone from his hand. But James was younger and faster. He stepped aside, and Mr. Green stumbled forward. "I would not do that if I were you, Mr. Green. Assaulting someone and trying to destroy evidence will only make things worse for you. I have already sent copies of everything to a secure location. Even if you take my phone, the evidence still exists." Mr. Green realized he was trapped. He sat down heavily in the chair and put his head in his hands. "Who are you? You are not just a janitor." James pulled off his gray wig and took off his fake glasses. He wiped the makeup from his face with a cloth he had in his pocket. Mr. Green looked up and his eyes went wide with shock and horror. "Mr. Morrison? But, you are the CEO. What are you doing dressed as a janitor?" James looked at him with cold eyes. I came to find out who was stealing from my company and who was mistreating my employees. Congratulations, Mr. Green. You are at the top of both lists. You are fired. Security will escort you out of the building and the police will be here tomorrow morning to arrest you. I suggest you hire a good lawyer. Mr. Green started to beg. He said he was sorry. He said he would pay back the money. He said he had a family to support. James felt no sympathy. You should have thought about your family before you became a thief. Get out of my building. James called security and had Mr. Green escorted out immediately. Then he called Peter, his assistant, and told him to come to the office right away. Peter arrived within 30 minutes, looking worried. James explained everything that had happened. He showed Peter all the evidence he had collected. Peter's mouth hung open in shock. Sir, this is incredible. You have caught them all. What do you want me to do? James gave Peter a list of instructions. First, secure all the evidence and give copies to the company lawyers. Second, contact the police and file criminal charges against Mr. Green, Mrs. Wells, and 3 other managers who were involved in the theft scheme. Third, prepare termination letters for all the corrupt employees. Fourth, call an emergency board meeting for tomorrow afternoon. And fifth, prepare a company-wide announcement that James would make the next day. Peter nodded and immediately started making phone calls and sending emails. James went to his real office on the top floor and took a shower in his private bathroom. He put on his CEO suit and tie. He looked at himself in the mirror. He looked like himself again. But he felt different. These past 3 weeks as a janitor had changed him. He had seen the real heart of his company. He had seen the good and the bad. And he had met Emma Clark, someone who had integrity, even when no one important was watching. James sat at his desk and opened his computer. He pulled up Emma's employee file and her project proposal for the rebranding campaign. He read through everything carefully. Her work was excellent. It was exactly what the company needed. He made a note to himself to promote her. But first, he had to make sure her presentation to the client went smoothly tomorrow. He sent an email to the client's CEO, explaining that there had been some internal issues, but that they should definitely attend Emma's presentation because it would exceed their expectations. James worked through the night, preparing for the next day. At 6 in the morning, Peter returned with all the documents ready. The lawyers had reviewed the evidence and confirmed it was solid. The police were informed and would arrive at noon to make arrests. The board meeting was scheduled for 2 p.m. Everything was in place. James thanked Peter and told him to go home and get some rest. Then James left the building and went home to change into his janitor uniform one last time. He had one more thing to do before he revealed himself. At 8 in the morning, James returned to the office as Jim the janitor. He went straight to Emma's office. She was already there, even though it was early. She looked exhausted but determined. Her presentation was in 3 hours. She was reviewing her slides one last time, making small adjustments. James knocked on her open door. Emma looked up and smiled when she saw him. "Good morning, Jim. You are here early." James smiled back. "Good morning, Miss Emma. I wanted to check on you before your big presentation. Are you ready?" Emma took a deep breath. "I think so. I have worked so hard on this. I really hope it goes well. Mr. Green told me yesterday that if this presentation fails, I will be fired. No second chances." James felt angry again at the mention of Mr. Green's name, but he kept his voice calm. "Mr. Green will not be a problem for you anymore. Trust me. You just focus on doing your best. You are going to be amazing." Emma looked at him curiously. "Jim, you always know exactly what to say to make me feel better. How do you do that?" James shrugged. "I have been around long enough to recognize good people when I see them." "You are a good person, Miss Emma. Good people deserve good things." Emma stood up and walked around her desk. She did something that surprised James. She hugged him. "Thank you, Jim. Thank you for everything. You have been kinder to me than anyone else in this company. I will never forget that." James hugged her back, feeling emotional. He wished he could tell her the truth right now, but the timing was not right. He pulled away and said, You better get to that conference room. Your presentation starts soon. I will be rooting for you. Emma grabbed her laptop and presentation materials. She took one last deep breath and walked out of her office with confidence. James followed at a distance, pushing his janitor cart. He wanted to see this presentation himself. The conference room on the 7th floor was filling up with people. The client's executives had arrived. Several board members were there, curious about this emergency rebranding presentation they had heard about. Mrs. Wells was there too, looking smug because she still did not know she was about to be arrested. James positioned himself outside the conference room, looking through the window while pretending to clean. Emma walked to the front of the room and connected her laptop to the projector. She looked nervous, but ready. Emma began her presentation. Her voice was steady and confident. She explained the current branding problems and how her new strategy would solve them. She showed market research, customer surveys, and competitor analysis. Then she revealed her new logo designs and marketing campaign. The room went silent. Everyone was staring at the screen in amazement. The new branding was modern, fresh, and powerful. It was exactly what the company needed to reach younger customers and stand out from competitors. The client's CEO started asking questions. Emma answered each one perfectly. She had anticipated every possible question and had prepared detailed responses. She showed them projected sales increases, customer engagement metrics, and return on investment calculations. The numbers were impressive. James watched from outside the room, feeling proud. Emma was brilliant. This was not just a good presentation. This was exceptional work that would save the client's brand and bring millions of pounds in revenue to Morrison Industries. When Emma finished, the room erupted in applause. The client's CEO stood up and shook Emma's hand enthusiastically. "Miss Clark, this is outstanding work. This is exactly what we needed. I approve this campaign immediately. When can we start implementation?" Emma's face lit up with joy and relief. "We can start next week, sir. My team is ready." Mrs. Wells stood up, trying to take credit. "Yes, as head of finance, I made sure Miss Clark had all the resources she needed for this project." James could not let that lie stand. He pushed open the conference room door and walked in, still wearing his janitor uniform. Everyone turned to look at him, confused. "Excuse me," James said loudly. "But that is not true, Mrs. Wells. You and Mr. Green tried to sabotage Miss Clark's project. You gave her almost no budget and an impossible deadline. You wanted her to fail so you could fire her." The room went silent. Mrs. Wells's face turned red. "How dare you? You are just a janitor. Get out of this meeting." James smiled and pulled off his wig and glasses. He wiped the makeup from his face. The room gasped collectively. Emma's mouth dropped open in shock. "I am not just a janitor," James said clearly. "I am James Morrison, the CEO of this company. For the past 3 weeks, I have been working undercover as a janitor to investigate corruption in this company. Mrs. Wells, you are fired. Security will escort you out, and the police are waiting downstairs to arrest you for embezzlement and fraud." 2 security guards entered the room and took Mrs. Wells by the arms. She was shouting and protesting, but they led her out anyway. The board members were standing up, looking shocked and confused. James addressed them directly. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the dramatic reveal, but it was necessary. For weeks, several senior managers have been stealing from this company. They have also been mistreating our employees and creating a toxic work environment. I have collected evidence against all of them. Mr. Green, Mrs. Wells, and 3 others have been terminated and will face criminal charges." James turned to look at Emma, who was still standing at the front of the room in complete shock. "Miss Clark, I owe you an apology. I deceived you about my identity, but I want you to know that your kindness and integrity are exactly what this company needs. You treated me with respect when you thought I was just a janitor. You stood up against corruption even when it put your job at risk. You completed an impossible project with almost no resources. You are the kind of employee I want to build this company around." Emma's eyes filled with tears. You were Jim all along? But why? Why did you help me?" James walked toward her. "Because you deserved help. Because you were the only manager in this entire building who treated the janitors, the security guards, and the cafeteria workers like human beings. Because you have integrity. Those are rare qualities. and they should be rewarded, not punished. The client's CEO interrupted, looking amused. Mr. Morrison, I had heard rumors that you were an unconventional leader, but this exceeds all expectations. Miss Clark's work is brilliant. If she created this campaign under the conditions you described, then she is truly exceptional. I hope you will put her in charge of all our future projects. James nodded. I plan to do better than that. Miss Clark, effective immediately, you are promoted to Vice President of Marketing. You will have a new office, a significant salary increase, and a team of your choosing. You will report directly to me. Emma could not speak. She just stood there with tears running down her face. Finally, she found her voice. Thank you, Mr. Morrison. I do not know what to say. This is overwhelming. James smiled warmly. You do not have to say anything right now. Just keep being exactly who you are. This company needs more people like you. The board meeting that afternoon was intense. James presented all the evidence of corruption. He explained his undercover operation and his findings. The board was shocked but supportive. They approved all of James's termination decisions and agreed to implement new policies to prevent future corruption. They also approved Emma's promotion and gave James full authority to restructure the management team. Over the next few weeks, James cleaned house. He fired 12 managers who had been involved in various forms of misconduct. He promoted several lower-level employees who had demonstrated integrity and competence. He implemented an anonymous reporting system so employees could report misconduct without fear of retaliation. He also instituted mandatory ethics training for all managers. Most importantly, he made it clear that everyone in the company, from the CEO to the janitors, would be treated with respect. Emma thrived in her new role. Her rebranding campaign was a massive success. The client's sales increased by 40% in the first quarter. Morrison Industries gained 3 new major clients who had seen Emma's work and wanted similar campaigns. Emma built a strong marketing team and mentored young employees the same way Jim the janitor had mentored her. James and Emma developed a close working relationship built on mutual respect and trust. She never forgot that he had helped her when she needed it most, even though he was the CEO and could have simply fired the corrupt managers without getting involved personally. He never forgot that she had treated him with kindness when she thought he was just a janitor with no power or influence. 6 months after the undercover operation ended, James called Emma to his office. She arrived looking slightly nervous, wondering if something was wrong. James smiled and told her to sit down. Emma, I want to tell you something. What you taught me during those 3 weeks changed how I run this company. You showed me that true leadership is not about power or authority. It is about integrity and compassion. You treated me with respect when I could do nothing for you. That is the kind of person I want leading this company. Emma looked confused. What are you saying? James took a deep breath. I'm saying that I am promoting you again. I want you to be the chief operating officer. You will be second in command of the entire company. I trust you completely, and I know you will always do what is right, even when it is difficult. Emma's eyes went wide. James, I am only 28. There are people with much more experience than me. James shook his head. Experience means nothing without integrity. You have both. You have earned this position. What you knew about treating people with respect and dignity, what you knew about standing up for what is right even when it costs you, that knowledge saved everything. It saved this company from destroying itself from the inside. It saved me from becoming the kind of CEO who is disconnected from his employees. And it saved dozens of workers who were being mistreated. Your knowledge, your values, your character, that is what saved everything. Emma accepted the promotion with tears of gratitude. She became the youngest COO in the company's history. Under her leadership and James's vision, Morrison Industries became known not just for business success, but for ethical practices and employee satisfaction. They implemented fair wages, flexible working conditions, and a promotion system based on merit and character rather than politics and connections. The company's reputation improved dramatically, attracting top talent and loyal clients. James never forgot his time as Jim the janitor. Once a month, He would put on ordinary clothes and walk through the company building, talking to employees at all levels. He would eat lunch in the cafeteria with the maintenance staff. He would ask the security guards about their families. He wanted to make sure he never lost touch with the people who kept the company running every day. And whenever a new manager joined the company, James would tell them the story of how the janitor became the CEO, and how the young project manager who defended that janitor saved everything. He wanted everyone to understand that in his company, character mattered more than titles, and kindness was not weakness, but strength. Emma often thought back to those difficult days when Mr. Green was trying to destroy her career. She thought about Jim the janitor bringing her coffee and encouragement when she felt alone and defeated. She realized that the help had come from the most powerful person in the building, but he had offered it in the most humble way possible. That taught her something important about leadership. True power is not about dominating others or demanding respect. True power is about lifting others up and earning respect through actions. She carried that lesson with her for the rest of her career. The story of the undercover CEO spread through the business world. Other companies started implementing similar programs to identify toxic managers and promote employees with integrity. James was invited to speak at conferences about ethical leadership. He always brought Emma with him, making sure she received recognition for her role in transforming the company culture. Together, they proved that businesses could be both profitable and ethical, both successful and compassionate. And it all started because one woman defended a janitor she thought had no power, never knowing that her kindness would change both their lives forever. What she knew about basic human decency. What she knew about standing up for those with less power. What she knew about integrity. All of that knowledge saved everything, and created something better than either of them could have imagined.
The end.